Catharsis has finally arrived, and while many people will dismiss this album without giving it a fair shot because they're too busy being dressed by their mum,
What up, bitch?
I'm here to give my take on the album. With negative reviews coming from all corners of the globe, this surely has to be one of the most polarising albums of 2018.
Oh yeah!
I am here to counter this shitstorm and defend Catharsis. Good for you, Ben. Good for you. Just wanted to clarify a few things before I get into the review and while I'm waiting for the weather to fuck off. Englandhamshire. I'm going to be avoiding politics because you all know the stories by now. You all have your views. I have mine. And not only that, I've already done 4 videos on the previous singles discussing that. Check them out. Check them out. Go on. Check them out. I'm going to get out in a minute and start talking about the songs. But just one last thing, which is about the production. It's quite an aggressive mix. I think Rob was said somewhere as well, even though this is considered to be, or could have been, a follow-up to the Burning Red, the production on it is much more aggressive. Talking about music helps me avoid the absence of joy in my own life. Very guitar heavy, very vocal heavy. As a guitar player myself, I favour a guitar heavy mix anyway, so that works for me. So yeah, mix-wise, production-wise, I'm in favour. The weather's just about becoming tolerable, so let's get out and do the review that literally no one is waiting for. Okay, well, it's a bit windy, but the rain has stopped. So, I'm going to attempt to get some of this review done out here. Ah, fuck's sake. That ain't happening. Bloody hell. I think it's fair to say this is going to be a car edition of Rambling On. The Rambling On will purely be vocal today. First track on the album is Volatile. Great start to the album. First words we hear from Rob: fuck the world. Fuck the world? Fuck the rain. This was written, and I believe it was recorded as well, on the day from the clashes of Charlottesville. Very, very Slipknot. Not just in terms of riffs, but Rob's vocal delivery. Very reminiscent of Corey on the debut Slipknot album, but awesome song. Great way to start the track. Ugh, great way to start the album, dickhead. Rain, rain, go away, come again another day. Of course, precipitation is absolutely essential for bringing salt-free water to life on land. So, yeah, very heavy Slipknot vibe, which I know a bunch of other reviewers have already stated. Yeah, one of the problems of doing these reviews later than most people is that they've already said a lot of things I want to say. It's like they've gone into my brain in the future and stolen to go to the past to do their own reviews. Not good. Not cool, man. Not cool. Second track we have is Catharsis. Now, I've already made a video on this one, so make sure you check that out if you haven't already. Was a little unsure of this when I first heard it. Really grown on me, and I have to say it sits really well within the album, within the sequencing of the album. It makes a lot more sense to me within the confines of the album. God. Brevity. Beyond the Pale is up next. Love this straight away. Still can't get past the strapping young lad. Love riff. Love. Without a doubt, this is a Machine Head song. Like this one right from the off. Still love it. California Bleeding. Okay, now this is an interesting one. Not quite sure what I think of this song, to be quite honest with you. It's not a bad song at all. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad Machine Head song. But yeah, lyrically, this is maybe one of the ones on the album that I do actually find a bit more cheesy. I've been waiting in here now for 2 hours. Yeah, not so keen on this song. Next up is Triple Beam. I've heard a lot of people talking shit about this song, or saying that it's Rob's way of trying to be urban or whatever. For me personally, this is actually one of the standout tracks on the album. What? Which I can fully defend now. You do that. I've been listening to the band since '94, as soon as Burn My Eyes came out, and I've read a hell of a lot of interviews back in the days before internet. And I remember Rob always talking about an incident that happened at a gas station. And this was, I think it was maybe at the beginning of Machine Head. Didn't have an album out yet, but it was earlier on. And something happened, an incident happened. And he referred to this incident in a number of interviews he did over a good 3 or 4 years in the beginning. And I was always fascinated what happened, because he said that this was like a life-changing experience, or certainly made him look at his life in the direction that it was going. Now, a lot of people seem to have dismissed this song as him almost telling a story from the perspective of somebody else, trying to be urban, trying to relate to somebody growing up in a less than affluent area. This was about him. This was actually, I believe this is actually his story. History. Duh. Yeah, it's not him talking about somebody else's perspective or trying to cater to anybody else. This is actually from his perspective. This is actually from his history. 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 His story. History. So, as somebody who, because in the interviews he never really went into depth of what happens. It was always in quotations, the incident. So I remember all those years ago being fascinated with what this incident might have been, because he never went into depth about what it was. It was always in quotations as the incident. So this song, I believe, actually documents exactly what happened. And for me, it's really fascinating to hear. I applaud you, Sir Robert of Flynn. And he said right from the off that this was a nu metal song. It definitely is. It's the first one that I could totally hear being on The Burning Red. But I've got no issue with it at all. I actually really like this song purely because it answers a few questions I've had for many, many years about what that incident was. Been here for a long time. Hours I've been here. Kaleidoscope. Loved this one right out the gate. Again, already done a review on this one. Check that one out. Great song. I forgot to mention earlier on, actually, in Catharsis, you had the whole Stand Your Ground theme, which comes up again in Bastards. Bastards! Now, I've already done a review for this one, so check that one out, but I just wanted to mention as well that this is pretty much the centrepiece of the album. That everything else seems to centre around lyrically. Oh, God. Next up, Hope Begets Hope. Again, the Stand Your Ground theme is in here. I thought that this song had a very System of a Down vibe. Which works really well. The crippling everyday mundanity of it all. Mundanity? Screaming at the Sun, this had some great riffs on it, and this is another one of the songs that I could have heard on The Burning Red, or the supposed follow-up to The Burning Red, and some Alice in Chains style sort of vocal harmonising. Always good. Behind the Mask is up next, which I really enjoyed. Very atmospheric, very vibey, all acoustic, very breathy vocals, atmospheric. Has a very, very strong Opeth vibe on this. But beautiful guitars. Rob's vocals. The guy can sing. That's something that's worth remembering as well. That this guy he's got a pretty good range on him, and he can really do the clean vocals. He can do them well. And this song definitely benefits from that. Well, I'm glad I made the effort to come out here. Heavy Lies the Crown is the next song, which is about I think this is about a Louis XI, the Spider King. I am the Spider King. That was a spider. I think this one's about Louis XI, who was known as the Spider King. For historians out there. Not sure about the vocals on this one. It's kind of the delivery on the vocals on this one. Wondering if there was a bit of inspiration from Robert Smith from The Cure on this one. Lullaby. I don't know, because I know he's a huge Cure fan. Maybe so, maybe not. Anyway, it's actually I was a little dubious about the vocal delivery at the beginning of the song. I am the Spider King. But no, it's actually a fairly strong song. Goes into a new wave of British heavy metal sort of style riff. At one point morphs into a thrash riff and then to a slow crawl towards the end with the ominous string bursts to take the song out. Yeah, not bad at all. Psychotic is up next. I love the vibe on this song, great. Much like Kaleidoscope, I think I could actually hear this on the More Things Change. I think it's got a very More Things Change vibe on this song. Up next is Grind You Down, which has more of a supercharger vibe to me. I'm guessing it's in F tuning. I think that's what he tunes down to for the really low tunings he does. There's a riff in it that's kind of reminiscent of A Nation on Fire, you know, that thrash riff. As I spit everywhere. God. Again, Stand Your Ground, Don't Let Them Grind You Down comes up in this song again, as it does through so many of the other songs. Grind you down! Oh, fucker. Then we go into Razorblade Smile, which I think's a tribute to Lemmy. I think I remember reading that somewhere, and it kind of makes sense. Not some odd lyrics in here, but it's not. Again, it's not a bad song. One of the vocals in it is actually very reminiscent of parts of Overkill by Motorhead, of course. And then the final song we have is Eulogy, which is. I actually found this song quite emotional, to be honest with you. Again, returning to, it's pretty much it's almost like a remix of Bastards. Returning to the Stand Your Ground, Don't Let the Bastards Grind You Down theme. Rob coming across as very vulnerable on this song. So that's the album, and I mean, I just mentioned then that Rob sounds vulnerable on this song. I think that's part of the overall theme of the album in many ways. Almost like he's dealing with his mortality. And he realises how precious time is, and it's important to do the things that you want to do here. I'm assuming that the incident with Phil Anselmo back in 2016 that we all know about now, the whole racism thing, had a huge effect on him. I know he received a lot of death threats towards himself and his family for standing up for what he believes in. And that must have had a knock-on effect onto the lyrics that you hear on this album. Not only that, with songs like Triple Beam, where he's dealing with the incident, he's obviously looking back at his past, and well, I mean, the name of the album is Catharsis, and it makes perfect sense the more you look into it. It's like he really is dealing with his history and laying things down and getting on with it. I personally think this album is very brave. You know, in terms of a score, I'd give this album an 8 out of 10. There are a few songs on it that I wouldn't go so far as filler, but maybe not so. California Bleeding. What was the other one? California Bleeding and Razorblade Smile are the only two songs that I'm really a bit more, nah. The rest of it I think is great. I think there's some real bangers on here. I think there's some great stuff. I think it's going to go over really well live, some of this stuff. I got my ticket for May as well, so I'll be interested to see what they do with these songs live. I think some of them are going to go down really well. So yeah, there it is, Catharsis, the album that we've all been looking forward to for months, and there's been a lot of talk about, and I'm sure there'll continue to be. Is it stopping raining now? Fuck's sake! Ugh! Fucking stopping raining now. I'm not redoing this shit. If you haven't subscribed already, do. What you doing? Coming up, I've got a review of Phil Anselmo, his new album, Phil Anselmo and the Illegals. I've just done a quick thing on my thoughts on the Slayer farewell tour as well, so if you haven't already checked that out. I mean, God's sake, I've gone on for God knows how long now, so I'll see you later, bye.